And the next financial review members wish to debate is the financial review of the Department of Corrections. The question is that the report of the Law and Order Committee on the 2011-12 financial review of the Department of Corrections be noted.
Mr. Chair.
Mark Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and it's an honour to get up and speak in support of the Department of Corrections. And I'd just like to briefly touch on two areas, because tonight in the House we've spoken a fair bit about youth and education. So I'd like to talk about the program that's been implemented by Minister Tolley, and if I get time I'd also like to touch on Serco, because the mix of public and private sector working together I think is going to be a very successful model for New Zealand, for the Corrections Department, for the prisoners, and of course for our taxpayers, where we're going to see a great mix of ideas and exchange of information between a very good private sector company and a very good and efficient public service. Corrections Minister Anne Tolley has officially opened a young offenders unit at Hawke's Bay Regional Prison, which will deliver a much more structured approach to dealing with young prisoners. The under 20-year-olds will be required to take part in a daily routine which includes education, vocational training and a rehabilitative program. We don't want these young teenagers to get used to a life of crime and to continue creating victims in the years ahead. While they're being punished for committing crimes, we can give them the opportunity to turn their lives around so that when they are released, they're better equipped to contribute to society, enter employment and be much less likely to reoffend. We will also be saving the taxpayer $96,000 a year for every offender who doesn't return to prison. This is no easy task, as young prisoners are often aggressive, destructive and antisocial. But if we can address these issues while they're under 20 and still impressionable, while giving them education and skills training, then we can make a real difference and ultimately we can make our communities safer. The 30-bed refurbished unit replaces the previous youth unit, which was closed in 2011. Corrections has now strengthened its links with child, youth and family, youth justice and police youth aid to better tackle youth offending. And under this government and under Minister Tolley and Minister Collins, we are seeing a model that has been rolled out throughout the country where there is a much better cooperation and communication between the different agencies that are touching and having to deal with these offenders. This Youth Offenders Unit has a major contribution to play in reaching that goal, alongside our other important targets of a reduction of the total recorded crime rate by 15%, the recorded violent crime rate by 20% and the youth crime rate by 5%.
What's the next one? Justice.
2,000 prisoners are to be enrolled in an education program leading to NCEA qualifications over the next 2 years as a result of a new partnership that has been formed between Corrections and the Open Polytechnic. The partnership will help Corrections reach its better public services target of a reduction in reoffending of 25%, with 18,500 fewer victims of crime each year by the year 2017. Offenders will receive 2 hours of coaching a week on top of 8 hours of distance learning as part of the Get Ahead with NCEA program, and will be able to study for an Open Polytechnic certificate in career and self-development, a national certificate in employment skills, a certificate in work and life skills, and NCEA levels 1 and 2 will become available to them. We know that a lack of education is a major driver of crime. Education and qualifications are powerful tools in helping steer offenders away from criminal activity, which leads to fewer victims of crime and ultimately safer communities. The reality is that around 90% of prisoners can't read or write properly. 90% of prisoners can't read or write properly. Most will be released back into our communities, but while they are inside prison, they are the ultimate captive audience. If we can give them access to an education while inside the wire, or just after release into the community, they can learn literacy and numeracy skills and earn qualifications, which will help them to hold down jobs and make a positive contribution to society instead of returning to crime.
The question is that the report of the Law and Order Committee on the 2011-12 financial review of the Department of Corrections be noted. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. I understand members wish to debate the report of the Local Government and Environment Committee on the non-departmental appropriations for vote climate change. The question is that the report of the Local Government and Environment Committee on the 2011-12 non-departmental appropriations for vote climate change be noted. Dr. Kennedy Graham. I think the member will need